Uhuru! Hands off Uhuru!
Hands off Africa!
Unity through
Reparation!
free Palestine! Free Leonard Peltier! Uhuru, everybody! Uhuru. And did we mention Chicago in the house? Okay, Uhuru. We also have John McCarthy here from Chicago joining us. Uhuru. And any other locations we didn't mention, please feel free to. We got Nashville, Tennessee. Uhuru. Uhuru. Anywhere else we missed, please. Where was that? We got New Mexico. Uhuru. All right. Tampa. Athens, Ohio. All right. Keep it going. Asheville, North Carolina. All right, great. I just want to welcome everybody again to this incredible conference and give another round of applause for the brilliant presentations that we've heard up to this point, starting with Chairman Omalia Shatella, Uhuru Chairman. And also salute to Chairwoman Penny Hess for that very powerful presentation earlier, Uhuru Chairwoman Penny. And I also want to thank Makeda for that incredible performance earlier of the poem and the song. Thank you so much to Makeda. And also thank Comrade Vice Chair Amanda for the dedication. Uhuru, Amanda. And I want to join in saluting and welcoming Deputy Chair Onazane Yeshatala, who is here with us and who will be speaking a little bit later in today's program. Uhuru, Deputy Chair. And I have more salutes, but before I move on to that, I just want to unite with what Jamie said, that while listening to the chairman speak, that was the thought that kept coming to my mind, which is, doesn't it offend you that the United States government expects you or anyone to believe that anyone, Russian or otherwise, is behind the scenes telling Chairman Omalia Yeshatela what to think, what to say, what to do? Doesn't that offend you? And that is the premise of this entire bogus prosecution. But I don't really think the United States government even believes that. And we've learned from Chairman Omalia Yeshatela about Marcus Garvey 100 years ago, who fought to build a movement of 11 million African people to unite and liberate Africa. And J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI put him in prison on charges of mail fraud. I don't think that J. Edgar Hoover and the FBI were really concerned about mail fraud. And that's why they put Marcus Garvey in prison. And it is as absurd to think that mail fraud is the reason they put Garvey in prison, who they had been surveillancing for years, as it is to think that Russian influence is the reason that they are trying to put the chairman in prison. That it's not about Russia ultimately, or being a Russian agent. It's, as the chairman said, and as Chairwoman Penny said, that African people have agency. And through Chairman Omalia Yeshatela, through the African People's Socialist Party, Africa and African people have their own agency. And that's what they're trying to crush. And I also just wanted to mention that J. Edgar Hoover, who is just a figurehead that we associate with the FBI repression of the African liberation movement. Of course, it's way bigger than one person, as they try to make it into, it's just about J. Edgar Hoover's insane obsessions and stuff like that. But nonetheless, he got his start working to destroy the Garvey movement in the 1920s. He was, and still to this day, was the longest running FBI director. He was the director of the FBI for almost 50 years. And he became most notorious for presiding over the COINTELPRO program, which was, as the chairman teaches us, just one aspect of the colonial state's counterinsurgency against the African Revolution that worked to militarily crush the Black Revolution of the 1960s and put dozens of African revolutionary leaders in prison and kill hundreds of them and force others into exile. And in 1972, May of 1972, J. Edgar Hoover died. He died. He drew his last breath, assuming that his work was done and that he had accomplished his mission of eradicating the revolutionary struggle of African people. May of 1972, J. Edgar Hoover draws his last breath. And within days after, the African People's Socialist Party draws its first breath. And this moment. So I just wanted to say that, and here we are now, 50, 60 years later, and the US government is trying to put Chairman Omali Yeshitela in prison. And I want to unite with what Chairwoman Penny said, that part of this convention, the commitment of this convention, is that we will do our part as the solidarity front of the African Revolution to build the hands-off Uhuru strategy, to win the court of public opinion. Chairman Omali Yeshitela and the Uhuru Three will not see a day in prison. That is our commitment. So I also just want to ask, quick show of hands, if you are not yet a member of the Uhuru Solidarity, well, I'm not going to raise my hand. If you are not yet a member, okay, we have some hands here, not yet a member, okay. Before you leave this conference today, our goal is that you will become a member of the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. As part of getting to that, just 1,000 is just the beginning of the millions of white people that we have to win to stand on the side of the African Revolution, which is in our true interests. So I just also wanted to salute and appreciate Director Akile Anai, Chair Mwezi Odom, Akenge Mayele, and all of the other members of the African People's Socialist Party. And I also want to thank and salute the Uhuru Three legal team, who we will get to hear from later today. Our attorneys, Mataki Akbar, Addie Griffin, Leonard Goodman, Angela Rainey, and Tom Inskeep, who work under the chairman's leadership to wage a fierce fight back in the courts against these bogus attacks. I want to unite with the call to free Leonard Peltier, not one more year, free Palestine, victory to the Palestinian people, and also salute and thank Veterans for Peace, who worked with us on coordinating a vigil for Aaron Bushnell and who are here with us today. We have representatives from here in St. Louis and from Fresno, California. Thank you to Veterans for Peace for being with us today. To the Center for Political Innovation, who have been from day one out there fighting to demand the charges against the Uhuru Three be dropped and have stood in principled unity with this struggle from the very beginning. Uhuru to Center for Political Innovation. We have John McCarthy here with us. And to all of our supporters and endorsers who have come here to defend anti-colonial free speech. This convention today stands with the anti-colonial free speech movement. The Uhuru Solidarity Movement is the African People's Socialist Party's solidarity front within the white population to organize us white people, as Chairwoman Penny so eloquently laid out, to recognize that our true interests are not with this baby-killing, terroristic, genocidal colonial system, destroyer of life and the planet Earth itself. Our true interests are one with the rest of humanity. And as the chairman teaches us, what has kept us from realizing our true interests as being one with the rest of humanity has been our own white opportunism, our own willingness over and over again to sacrifice the long-term interests of humanity to pursue our own narrow, short-term interests as colonizers on the pedestal of the backs of everybody else. So what the African People's Socialist Party has created for us with the African People's Solidarity Committee, with the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, is the only meaningful way to right that wrong, to rectify our history, to end our complicity, and to abandon and betray our own ruling class. With the creation of APSC and the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, the chairman and the party have opened up a new front in the white community, in our homes, in our neighborhoods, on our campuses, in our communities, the communities of the colonizer, and recruited us to become instruments of the anti-colonial struggle, to become vessels through which the voice, message, and strategy of the African Revolution speaks into the homes and communities of the colonizer. So therefore, the attack on the anti-colonial free speech that has primarily targeted Chairman Omali Yeshitela is also attacking anti-colonial free speech when it includes in these indictments APSC and USM, Chairwoman Penny Hess, and myself. Because when they try to silence us, when they try to silence you as the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, they are trying to silence the African liberation movement. The attack on our right to speak, on our right to say, no more genocide in our name, white solidarity with Black power, is an attack on African people's right to free speech, because we are the voice of Black power in white face. We are a means through which the African Revolution speaks into the other side of the colonial divide. So this is a new development in history. This is a breakthrough that Chairman Omali Yeshitela has made possible. And I have this book up here, Overturning the Culture of Violence by Chairwoman Penny, that I wanted to just refer to for a moment and encourage people to check this out. In this book, Chairwoman Penny talks about something that Chairman has talked about a lot recently as well, this whole question of free speech in the 1960s. And the fact that in the 1960s, I think it was 1964, there were white college students at UC Berkeley who were tabling, they were doing outreach tables in support of the Congress of Racial Equality, in support of the Civil Rights Movement. These were students who had been involved in the Freedom Rides, the Mississippi Summer Project, and were connected to the struggle of African people at that time. They were holding outreach tables in solidarity with that struggle. The campus police came in, asked them to show ID, they refused, and their table was shut down and they were arrested. And this led to big demonstrations and the famous speech of what's his name? Mario Savio, yes, about throwing your body on the gears and all of that. And it created this big free speech movement. That's what they called it, the free speech movement at UC Berkeley, which had nothing to do with the fact that the impetus for this fight for free speech was the right to support the Black struggle. These white people at that time just completely forgot what had gotten them involved to begin with. And they were out there saying, we support civil rights. The campus said, you can't say that. They said, we can say whatever we want. As white people, it was no longer about, we have the right to stand with the Black community. And that's why the chairman is saying, yes, free speech, but it has to be an anti-colonial free speech movement. And that's what this gives us the opportunity to do. Fight for free speech, not just to make colonialism more democratic for us, but fight for free speech as a component of the struggle against colonialism. That's what this anti-colonial free speech movement is all about. And that's what this convention is all about. And that's what we are going to be talking about as we go forward in these next 2 days to talk about building the Uhuru Solidarity Movement and mobilizing for September 3rd in Tampa, Florida, 4-week trial at least. And I want to see the show of hands. Who is planning to be with us in Tampa September 3rd for the trial of the century, the trial of the Uhuru 3? Okay, everybody's got their hands up in this room right now. That's what I have to say, Uhuru. So I want to say a few more things about the struggle against, against our opportunism as white people that the chairman has led to forge this organization and movement that we are a part of today, the African People's Solidarity Committee, the Uhuru Solidarity Movement. The chairman has talked about the fact that in the 1960s, it was the Black Revolution that radicalized white people, that mobilized white people into action. You had the women's liberation movement. You had the gay liberation movement. You had disability justice movements within the white community. Why? It wasn't just because those groups saw Africans struggling and said, oh, we should do that too. It was because the structure of the colonial system rests upon the oppression of African people. So therefore, the Black Revolution was an assault on the foundation of the whole social system. And when African people's resistance began to destabilize that social system, it created the space for anybody else facing oppression in that social system to come forward and fight for their liberation. But just like with the free speech movement, when the US government came in and crushed the Black Revolution, those same white people who had been mobilized by the Black Revolution abandoned the Black Revolution, did not come to its defense when it came under siege by the FBI and other police forces in this country, and instead, on the backs of that destroyed movement, worked to build opportunistic white rights movements, no longer fighting for liberation, but just fighting for equality or rights within the social system on the backs of African people. And today we are seeing on the backs of the attack on the African People's Socialist Party, an intensification on the attacks on free speech for everybody. It is happening. It is happening. And recently the chairman gave an address to the African nation. And I want to quote something that I think is extremely important that the chairman said. He said, political repression is happening throughout the United States, achieving a character normally associated just with the attacks on Africans, Mexicans, indigenous, and colonized people. White people have generally characterized this colonial intrusion on the rights of white people, of colonial citizens, as fascism. This thing called fascism can only occur for the colonizer or white people because the crisis stemming from the resistance of the colonized to their ongoing theft of their resources and their liberty that enriches the colonizers is accepted by the colonizers as our crisis. So the stability of the social system comes apart because the colonized peoples are resisting that social system. So because of our opportunism, we see that crisis caused by that resistance as our crisis. Instead of seeing, as the chairman says, that the resistance of African and colonized peoples is our resistance, that African resistance should be our resistance, that African liberation can be our liberation. That's what the Uhuru Solidarity Movement is about. Uhuru. And when we understand this, that's exactly right, Chairman. When we understand this, we understand why, as the chairman said, Aaron Bushnell was in solidarity with himself when he did what he did in solidarity with the Palestinians. That when we find our way to solidarity with the African and oppressed peoples of the world, we find our way to solidarity with ourselves, with our own humanity, with our own genuine interests on the planet Earth, which can never be separate from the interests of the rest of humanity. This convention stands in complete and unconditional solidarity with the Palestinian people. We speak for all white people, including Jews, who want to stand in solidarity with the Palestinian people for their total liberation from the river to the sea. And we believe that it is crucial for those of us in the US who want to oppose the US-backed slaughter in occupied Palestine to recognize, as the chairman says, that we can't separate, divide, isolate that from the larger struggle against colonialism. The Palestinians have always understood that. Yes. That's why, as Chairwoman Penny talked about, they stood with Africans in Ferguson in 2014. That's why in the 1960s and 70s, they stood with the African Liberation Movement. The Popular Front for the Liberation of Palestine in 2014 issued a statement, not just supporting what was happening in Ferguson, but saying the Black struggle leads the world. It's only white people, white leftists, who have not been able to understand that and who have insisted on dividing oppressed people's struggles and pitting them against each other and making it about which one we focus on at any given time, rather than understanding that it's one system. It's one colonial mode of production. It's one revolution. It's the African revolution is the world revolution. That's what we have to understand. The party stands 100% for a free Palestine and is committed to the liberation of Palestine, not just by engaging in protests, but by doing what the Palestinians are doing and working to negate and overturn colonialism. That's what the African People's Socialist Party is about. Colonialism must go from North St. Louis to the West Bank, to the Gaza Strip, whether in the stolen, occupied land of Palestine in the illegitimate US-backed Israeli settler state, or in the stolen indigenous land in the illegitimate US settler colonial state.
From sea to shining sea.
That's right, from sea to shining sea. Victory to the indigenous people from sea to shining sea. Chairman talked about Joe Biden. Here's a good Joe Biden quote. He said, if Israel did not exist, well, first he said, my dad always told me you don't have to be a Jew to be a Zionist. And I am a Zionist, which is, we agree. And then he said, if Israel did not exist, the US would have to invent it. And that's incredible because white power did invent Israel. My dad is older than the state of Israel. And without the United States funding, support, arms, Israel would fall tonight
Yeah.
without the United States. And the follow-up to that, as the chairman has said, without slavery, without genocide, without the oppression of African and indigenous people, would there be a United States? And his answer is no, 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 1,000 times no. So this is why, as white people, if we are serious about fighting for a free Palestine, we have to join under the leadership of the African Revolution in the belly of the beast, fighting to bring down the colonial mode of production that is killing and destroying people all around the world. No more genocide in our name is not just a demand to stop genocide. It is a call to action to fight for reparations to African people. So I want to close by saying that Aaron Bushnell, as Amanda quoted earlier, he said, if you were alive during Jim Crow, during slavery, during apartheid, what would you do? We can add, if you were alive when the US government came to destroy the movement of Marcus Garvey, if you were alive when they came to destroy the Black Panther Party, when they killed Fred Hampton, when they assassinated Malcolm X, when they killed Martin Luther King, what would you do? You're doing it right now. You are alive. At the time when colonialism is being killed and the US government is trying to imprison Chairman Omali Yeshitela, trying to imprison those who tell the truth and fight for freedom. You are alive during that time. We are here. So what will we do? So that's what this convention is all about. It is time to fight. It is time to build. It is time to organize thousands, hundreds of thousands, millions of white people to say that we will stand 100% with the African People's Socialist Party and Chairman Omali Yeshitela to say no more genocide in our name. We will be launching a campaign to build marches against genocide initiated back in 1979, continuing today. In 2024, the March Against Genocide will happen in October of this year. We'll be talking about that more tomorrow. We will be launching a massive membership drive to win thousands of members into the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, to raise millions of dollars in reparations for the work of the African People's Socialist Party, to free Leonard Peltier, to fight for anti-colonial free speech. It is time to join and build the Uhuru Solidarity Movement, white solidarity with Black power, unity through Uhuru.